Due to the COVID-19 quarantine shelter-in-place protective measures, many of us are unable to traditionally strength train with heavy weights. Despite not being able to train specifically for maximal strength, there are still fitness gains to be made, particularly in the realm of movement efficiency, mobility, and muscular strength endurance. The 3-repetition max deadlift is a muscular strength test that represents movements required to safely and effectively lift heavy loads from the ground, jump, bound, and tolerate landing. The max deadlift is a strong predictor of a soldier's ability to lift and carry a casualty on a litter and to lift and move personnel and equipment. This test event requires well-conditioned back and leg muscles that assist soldiers in load carriage and in avoiding injuries to the upper and lower back caused by moving long distances, under load, and lifting heavy objects. The max deadlift consists of 3 phases: the preparatory, the upward movement, and the downward movement. A successful max deadlift attempt is 3 repetitions to standard. Prior to engaging in any form of physical activity, it is important that you start with a warm-up. The benefits of a warm-up include decreasing your likelihood of injury, increasing your range of motion, preparing your body for movement, reinforcing proper technique, addressing mobility and stability patterns, and increasing your proprioception for task-specific skills. Today, our warm-up will include 7 phases to include your general warm-up, self-myofascial release, static and dynamic stretching, corrective exercise, target muscle activation, movement pattern development, and finally, central nervous system activation. For the starting position, stand with the feet about hip-width apart, grasp a barbell with an overhand grip, and the arms should be outside the knees. The barbell should be on the ground and touching the lower legs at the mid-shin level. The knees, hips, and ankles should be flexed with the back in a neutral position at approximately a 45-degree angle to the ground. To conduct a repetition, extend the knees and then the hips. keeping the elbows extended and allowing the barbell to travel upward in close proximity to the legs. The back should remain in a neutral position throughout this exercise. Continue the upward movement until the knees and hips are extended with the barbell at mid-thigh level and the torso perpendicular to the ground. The downward movement begins when you flex the hips, knees, and shoulders while keeping the elbows extended, allowing the barbell to travel downward in close proximity to the legs. The back should remain in a neutral position throughout the exercise. Continue descending until the barbell is back in the starting position. The most common error when performing the deadlift is excessive rounding of the spine. To correct this movement, abdominal bracing and neutral spine must be practiced before moving on to increase intensity or volume. As you can see, as I am lowering the barbell and raising it up, I have an excessive curvature in the upper thoracic spine at the top and bottom of the movement. One drill to correct this is by taking a kettlebell or another weight, placing it behind you, and practicing the hip hinge pattern. This forces you to abdominally brace and also maintain a neutral spine while in the standing position. The wall tap drill is designed to improve the hip hinge pattern with tactile feedback when learning to move your hips back first and maintaining constant core tension and a neutral spine. Another common error is fully extending the knees before starting to extend the hips. This fragmented sequence increases the compression of the low back, which will be doing the brunt of the work. The hip should rise at the same rate as the chest during the initial pull off the ground. Make sure you keep your back angle constant until the bar has cleared the knees. The third error commonly made is hyperextending the back at the top of the exercise, which places excess stress on the low back. The goal is to finish the deadlift with a strong and powerful hip extension. Think to stand tall and resist the urge to lean back. Prior to discussing training opportunities for the 3 repetition max deadlift, I wanted to discuss this image that shows the different hip and knee angles as it pertains to comparison of the trap bar deadlift with your conventional deadlift and the position you are in while you are in a squat. So as you can see, if you notice the position of the bar in relation to the shin, the starting position in the conventional deadlift has much more of a vertical shin angle. The bar is in front of the shins and the hips are high with tension in the hamstrings. In contrast, when standing inside the hex bar, the performer must assume a squattier position that is more similar to a squat than a deadlift. Notice the identical back and knee angles between figures 2 and 3. This is why training the squat supports your trap bar deadlift. In this next series, I'll just be showing the transition between a high handle trap bar deadlift and also a low handle. If you notice in this first sequence, I'm doing a normal trap bar deadlift where I am starting in more a squattier position as I previously discussed. This next one here, I have the low handle and it looks a lot more like the traditional conventional deadlift. Now, with this implement, you can change your hip angle and choose to do a more squat version of the deadlift or hinge with more tension in your hamstrings, just like a straight bar. Again, just to recap, when comparing the conventional straight bar deadlift and the trap bar or hex bar deadlift, you can see the different hip angles when comparing the 3 different types of deadlifts. The one that will help you the most in terms of training will be the trap bar deadlift, as it is more specific to the event you'll be conducting during the ACFT. Thus, strengthening your squat and deadlift will improve your 3 repetition max overall. The deadlift exercise can be performed with minimal equipment or body weight as long as the movement can be conducted using safe and effective technique. A few alternative pieces of equipment that may be used are exercise bands of different resistance, a rucksack, a duffel bag, a bag of soil, a rice bag, an IOTV, or a weighted vest. Without heavy weight to your disposal, it is ideal to focus on your mobility and your movement efficiency. We believe that in order to move well or move often, you have to have correct form. For muscular endurance, perform 3 to 4 sets of between 10 to 25 repetitions, resting less than or equal to 30 seconds in between each set. To optimize muscle growth or muscular hypertrophy, or even maintain the current muscle mass you have, try to push close to failure, meaning you have 2 to 3 left in the tank during every single set. Be aware that this technique is for intermediate to advanced lifters who have at least 6 months to 1 year of lifting experience. Make sure you're using hard or heavy enough resistance during each set. At least perform 30 to 40% of your 1 repetition max, or close to 30 to 40 reps per set. Keep in mind that many of the exercises just shown are assistive exercises to this movement that will help build strength in your posterior chain. However, moving light submaximal loads repetitively contributes to developing strength endurance. Lifting heavy near maximal loads for just a few repetitions contributes to developing the true absolute strength needed during the 3 repetition max. This event is a very deliberate measure of absolute strength, therefore efforts to improve performance in the max deadlift should be done according to the specific conditions of external resistance that bring about the most efficient strength gains, lifting loads greater than 75% of your 1 repetition max. Traditionally, this is done doing 3 to 5 sets of 3 to 5 repetitions of that prescribed percentage.